This meeting is being broadcast, as usual, live by the County Council's website, and it will also be available for viewing after the meeting. Can I please ask that all members and officers have their microphone on mute until they wish or are invited to speak? I have received apologies from Mr. Hill today, and we have Mrs. Seaton present as substitute. I have also received apology from Mr. Gatticoria, Mr. Robert Martin, and Mr. Walsh. Item 1, the first item is the minutes of the meeting held on the 5th of September, pages 5 to 16. I move that these are taken as read, confirmed, and signed. Is everyone in agreement? Item 2, question time. I have received no questions from members of the public today. Item 3, I have received no questions from members either. Item 4, I have no urgent items. Item 5, declarations of interest in respect of items on the agenda. Do any members have any interest that they wish to declare? Thank you. Item 6 is declaration to the party whip. Do members wish to declare the party whip? I believe so. And item 7, I have not received any petitions. Therefore, moving on, the first substantive report and item is a report on Leicestershire's response to tackling children criminal exploitation. This is on pages 17 to 22 in your agenda pack. And I invite Sharon Cook, the Assistant Director, Targeted Early Help and Children's Social Care, and Sam Stone, welcome Sam, the Field Social Work Service Manager, to present this item.
Thank you, Chair. The report or the detail within the report, so this is a regular report that the committee receive on the work that is completed on a multi-agency basis as part of our approach to child exploitation, missing and modern slavery. So the report outlines for members the policy framework in which this work is delivered. It gives a background on the actual location, the partnership working, and how the hub works on a daily basis to identify and collectively consider risk in this area to young people, and then to agree the outcome and the way forward. The report goes on to give some details of the work of the last 18 months that's been building on the work around harm outside of the home, and how we're developing community risk assessments for those young people where the harm is not in a traditional safeguarding way happening within their home. It's the harm that they come to when they're outside. So that's listed in some detail in paragraph 7 onwards in the report. And then paragraph 12 onwards provides for you some of the performance data and activity. To reassure, the services provided, the partnership works across LLR. The work for us in Leicestershire focuses right across the county, and how we promote and work together with schools, police and partner agencies is very clear across the county. The performance data that's provided in paragraph 13 and 14 identifies to you from that quarter where most activity and referrals came from, which areas they came from, both in respect of child sexual exploitation and child criminal exploitation. I think that gives an overview of what's in the report, and obviously happy to take any questions that members have.
Thank you very much, Sharon. Mrs. Taylor, did you have anything you wish to add?
No, Chair, thank you.
Right, I'll open it up to questions or comments. Anyone? Done silence. You've given a very good report. I don't know whether there we are. I don't know whether Sam, you'd like to add anything, as you've been with us now for about 6 months.
Yes, I have. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting. I'd just like to update the committee chair that we're updating our terms of reference for the multi-agency child exploitation hub. So they should be approved in the next couple of weeks.
Thank you very much. And nobody else got in, but excellent report, and thank you. And we seem to be doing very well. It's a very tricky subject, and it's very hard for staff and everybody concerned. It's a very emotional subject, quite stressful. So thank you very much. Sorry, Mrs. Seaton.
Sorry, late at putting my hand up. It's just that I'm quite interested in the violence reduction network. It's something that I've not actually heard of before, and I wondered whether you could elaborate on that for me.
Yeah, the Violence Reduction Network is actually led by an officer that connected to the police, but it works across the partnership, bringing partners together to identify key areas around youth violence, serious violence, criminal exploitation, and serves for us to look at how we collectively work together to approach those very difficult areas. So they provide and work with us to provide a lot of data, in-depth looking at that data and themes that are coming from there, but pull the partnership together around expectations about how we all work together.
Sorry, I'm just sort of picking up on my colleague's comment there about the VRN. I was of the opinion, I thought, do VRNs not, we have a meeting in Melton Mowbray where we meet with police and other stakeholders about once every 2 months. Is that not replicated across the county? Do we not do that? Okay.
Jane.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I may, yes, it is replicated across, and indeed the network, whilst it's a sub-regional network, that there are ways in which they meet at local level. I wonder, Chair, whether it would be worth, or if the committee would like for us to bring a report on the Violence Reduction Network to this committee, because the impact of the work for our children is quite significant. So more than happy, and we could ask the Director of the Violence Reduction Network to join us to present that report.
I think that would be very helpful to all of us. So yes, if you would arrange that for us, Jane, that would be fantastic. Thank you. Any other comments? No. We now move on to item 9, which is an update on the admissions service. This is on pages 23 to 48. Alison, you're joining us, and also Mr. Walker, and also Mr. Barra. Right, so who's going to lead on this?
Thank you.
Alison, thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. So the report here, the purpose of the report is to give an update on the autumn school admissions service, the fact that 9 out of 10 children secured their first time preference for both first time admissions and for all children entering secondary school transfer, and for those into infant to juniors as well. It's also to give an update on the challenges that we experienced this time last year, and the service improvements that we've had, and as part of the school improvement journey, to consult on the admissions policy and associated arrangements. The paper in the background details the challenges that we experienced last year, in part due to embedding a new Synergy system, IT system, the recruitment of new staff, and at the same time prioritising a significant backlog of the school admissions, midterm admissions. In paragraph 6, the paper goes on to note that as part of the school improvement journey, there is a proposal to amend the admissions policy, and as part of that, there needs to be a requirement to consult with that, do a public consultation for 6 weeks, and that has already started from the 1st of October and ends in January 24. There is a requirement also to seek approval through Cabinet by the 28th of February 24, which the policy must be then published on the website. The local authority statutory requirements detailed in the paper through paragraphs 8 through to 11 note that schools places are not automatically allocated to children and families in England, but they must apply for their school place, and the statutory responsibilities are in the following phased rounds. There's the first time admissions, infant to junior transfers, and the year 7 secondary transfers. In paragraph 10 in the table, those dates are detailed into there. There also are on paragraphs 12 through to 16, the local authorities admissions non-statutory requirements. So these are the midterm admissions. So those are where applications happen for year groups that are not part of those phased rounds that were already identified. And Leicestershire continues to offer a coordinated scheme on a trading basis to support parents seeking a school outside of those normal phased transfer times. Most of the schools in Leicestershire do take up the coordinated offer, and it's helpful for parents because there's a 24/7 online application system, a helpful website, and services that operate throughout the school holidays to help parents understand their rights and, where applicable, access the appeals process. The offer provides that seamless process for parents to secure the school place, and the LA ensure early identification of children who were refused entry. And then the midterm scheme also plays a vital role in those children to ensure that they're not missing out on education. It is challenging to identify those who are missing out on education, where we've got academies who don't buy into the coordinated scheme, and we've not got as robust details proportion to those children and young people. As part of that proposal for the admissions policy, I'm going to ask Gurjit to talk through what the options are in 17 through to paragraphs 18, where we've got the proposal. So if I can hand over to you, Gurjit, to talk those through. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So I'm going to take you through what our proposals are for this year's consultation. It's a statutory consultation that we must run while we're making any changes to the admissions policy or arrangements or coordinated schemes, and that's all covered within the proposals that we're looking at. So I'll take you through these. So proposal 1, we're looking at making a catchment change at Little Bowden School in Market Harborough. The reasoning rationale behind doing this is to give those parents within the greater catchment, which is the one we're looking at, moving to greater diversity of choice when they apply for local schools. There's also a foresight of housing gain in that local area that will come through over the next few years, with eventually a third school that will appear within that catchment. So we're trying to preempt what's going to happen in the future at a future time, so that it's far easier for those parents to understand what their catchment school is when they come to apply for school from 4+. Proposal 2 is an area where we're looking at reducing the admission number at 4 Leicestershire schools. These are in line with what we want to do in terms of Foxton and Hallerton, which is a compliance exercise. There is an issue of infant class size legislation, which states that you can't have more than 30 children to one qualified teacher. And with their current admission numbers at 17 and 18, because they mix their years 1 and 2, that means they would be in breach of that bit of legislation, and there would be a significant impact to the local authority if that happened. So we're looking at reducing the admission numbers for both those 2 schools to ensure compliance, and they will be permanent changes. In terms of New Bolverden and St Bartholomew's, this is slightly a different approach we're taking, and that's largely because of drop in birth rates that we are currently experiencing. This is the second year that we've seen a significant drop, such a drop that we've got 1,400 surplus places in primary schools at first-time admissions this year. So a number of schools have got budget deficit positions that they're trying to avoid, and this is to assist these 2 schools, both New Bolverden and St Bart's Corn, to have a temporary reduction in their admission number so that they can adjust their budgets accordingly. And once either the birth rates go up or the housing gain in the area goes up, then we'll resurrect the admission number back to where it ought to be. So these are only temporary reductions. Just as an aside, that we've also got several academies who are making the same types of changes that we are. They are running their own consultations, and we will be a consultee to their reductions. Turning over, proposal 3 is to adopt a simpler model of when we're determining school places. The model that we use at the moment is a very old traditional model, but it's very complex for parents and also school appeal panels to understand how it's operated. So we're moving to a system which is termed single criterion plus distance, where distance will be the tiebreaker. This will ensure a simpler model for parents to understand. Each criteria, for example, could be sibling, could be catchment. The cutoff that we'll use will be distance. If we still have spaces, we just simply move on to the next criterion, then apply the distance if we have more applicants than places available. Proposal 4, this is to look at increasing preferences in Leicestershire from 3 preferences to 5 on our applications. The rationale behind this is largely to what we've identified is over time in Leicestershire, we've now got catchments with several schools within one catchment. And we found that in particular in Ashby, Leicestershire residents were being disadvantaged where you've got 5 schools in a single catchment and they could only apply for 3 of those 5 schools. So to give them a greater choice of diversity and applying at one single time, we've increased to 5. We've got the same situation in Braunston. We've got other similar situations with 3 or 4 schools within a single catchment. So it's a catch-all. It should make applying for school places a lot easier for parents, because if they've been disappointed, then they simply reapply and reapply. So this way around, we think it would be of benefit. Finally, proposal 5 is to just tidy up aspects of the admissions policy and associated coordinated schemes. There's ambiguity of language where we found in school appeals and appeal panel members have challenged us on it. For us, obviously, it feels it's straightforward, but if parents or panel members aren't understanding it, it needs clarifying. So we're making clarifications to the policies to ensure that there's no ambiguity. And there's a range of points where we're going to be doing that, but there's no fundamental change in what we're proposing to change in those areas.
Thank you. So the consultation is underway, and whilst not overtly stated in here, we are consulting with the diocese, including the Church of England diocese. The consultation is publicised on the LA public media channels, head teacher briefings, Leicestershire Matters and local press. And finally, just to move to the conclusions, in summary, the scrutiny are made aware of the positive and high outcomes for Leicestershire children this year in terms of their school admissions rounds, first-time admissions. Scrutiny is offered assurance that the issues experienced last year regarding midterm applications backlogs have now been addressed and cleared. And finally, the additional performance improvement strategies have now been employed and having a positive impact on parent journey when seeking to secure a school place partway through the academic year. Thank you. Happy to take questions.
Mrs. Taylor, did you want to make any comments at this time?
No, that's a very clear explanation. Thank you.
Any questions? Mrs. Seaton?
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. My question is on proposal 4, and that is obviously to increase the numbers of school performance from 3 to 5. And I know when we're talking about people applying online, at the moment we've got a difficulty getting parents to put 3 choices down, let alone 5 choices. So because it's online, have we made the application? Sometimes when I fill in these boxes online, I don't really know what I'm talking about because I'm not that technically minded, but when we forget to fill something in, it comes back at us. So at the moment, does it do that if we don't fill in the 5 boxes? Will it come back at us and say, hey, up, you need to fill this in?
It's not a mandatory requirement to fill 5 preferences. So because you will get some parents that just fill in one and say to others, I've been successful, you don't need to. The advice given is always fill out as many options as you have to maximise your opportunities and not to disadvantage you as a parent in not securing a school of your choice. We already do some of that. So there's a media campaign where we advocate you fill in the maximum number of preferences. We also have a system where we are able to see how many preferences parents have made in the background, and if they've not submitted their form, we nudge them. Where we also speak to schools regularly to ask the year 6 in primary schools, can you make sure all your parents have filled out your applications? 5 in 2025, 3 at the moment. So there's a big campaign behind encouraging, and there's also pop-up boxes that tell parents that to fill out 3 when they apply.
Thank you, Chair. As far as this our statutory obligation to administer admissions is concerned, it's always seemed to me quite excellent, and you seem to come through with a very high number of first choices, and I support the proposals here. What puzzles me is that we can't cope with in year all these applications that come in because somebody's moved to the area or had to move to the area, and their parents apply for a school place because I think as many members are aware, having been approached by parents. As an example, I was approached by a parent a couple of months ago whose child came to Loughborough and was given a place in Hinckley. As far as I remember, it was Hinckley. It was certainly, as far as we were concerned in Loughborough, a very long way away. And she's beside herself, really, because the child was not in school. In the end, incidentally, they applied to Delisle, a local Roman Catholic secondary school. And interestingly, he was then interviewed, or the parents were interviewed, I'm not quite sure, on a sort of slightly competitive basis. And he got the place. And you wondered whether that, well, forced into that because there were no other places in the Loughborough area, the largest town in the county. And what puzzles me is that if there were no places this was in September, at any other secondary school other than one that was 20 or 30 miles away, that rather suggested that at the end of this statutory application process, every place was filled in every secondary school apart from in Hinckley. And I couldn't quite believe that there must have been some slack in the system for at least 1 or 2 places to be vacant in more than just one secondary school, and that if they were filling up, if every school was filling up to its maximum capacity, then what was happening at the end of the statutory admissions process to anybody who perhaps forgot to fill in the form or something? So that what we're being told is there's absolutely no slack in the system between the statutory applications admissions process and somebody coming in a few days later, in this case a couple of weeks later, I think it was little more than that, who wanted a place, and there was no place left in the county except in Hinckley. Explain, please.
one of the issues we face in Leicestershire, and it's the same in many other counties, is popularity of schools. So once on-time parents apply, it becomes very difficult for any late applicant to secure a school place at popular schools. And that tends to be a significant issue to us in the school admission service, where local schools fill up. Parents don't necessarily always do the homework about whether there's availability of local school places before they secure or commit funds to housing in the local area, only to find out then the next nearest school can be many miles away. Where the schools tend to be for primary greater than 2 miles or for secondary greater than 3 miles, there is an obligation on local authority subject to an eligibility exercise to get free transport, and many parents do apply and secure free school transport. However, where the distances are greater than and what you've mentioned, which is unreasonable, the school admissions code does give us a little bit of leeway where we can approach a school that's full to see if they would be prepared to take where the distance of the alternative school is at an unreasonable distance. The issue there tends to be most of these schools are academies and own admitting authorities, and sometimes they will oblige, and sometimes they feel that they are already over full, if not full, and that makes it difficult. In terms of how many spaces we have in Leicestershire, we've got enough school places for all Leicestershire children at the statutory age group phases.
Sorry, I was just making it. Sorry about that. Miss Jane Moore.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. If I may, just to add a few bits to what my colleague has shared. I think it is a significant challenge across all local authority areas around school places, and there's a delicate balance between meeting our sufficiency duty, which is about making sure there are adequate school places in any given year for children who live in Leicestershire, against the ability for children to move across the county. Another significant challenge is that we cannot ask nor expect schools to hold places spare. And if we think it through, every space is required, a teacher is required, so there's a cost required to it. So the normal round of admissions, so for secondary schools close on the 31st of October, we start processing those immediately, ready to offer children a place on the 1st of March. So any applications that are received after the 31st of October are dealt with as late or mid-term admissions. So even if an application comes through in April, which is well before the start of term, most school places have been allocated at that time, which is hence why, if somebody arrives in September or August, they will be coming into an area where school places have been allocated. So part of the challenge for us is around how we communicate with parents who are either wanting to move across Leicestershire or indeed move into Leicestershire, that they cannot be guaranteed a school place in the area to which they move. As Gurjit said, we can't direct or make academies take children. They are their own admitting authorities, and therefore we have to go through a kind of lengthy process should we want to, and as Gurjit set out, some of it takes negotiation. We take our sufficiency duty really seriously, so we make sure that there are sufficient school places for our children. We're confident that we do have the right number of school places for children within Leicestershire, based on the numbers that we get through census. But we completely understand this is a real challenge for those parents who move either into Leicestershire or indeed across Leicestershire and want their child to move school as well.
Thank you very much. I think the answer to my question really was that the schools aren't up to capacity at the close of play in terms of the admissions process, the statutory admissions process, because any school can, after the admissions have closed, any school can say, right, we're full. Is that what we're saying? Because I think Mr. Barra pointed out that an academy for example, could declare itself full after the admission process was. So we're not actually to that extent. It's up to the schools to decide whether they want extra pupils or not after the admission process has ceased. So that's the problem. Thank you.
I think the Miss Jane will explain that academies have their own admission policy, and therefore it's up to them how they do it.
Yeah, partly. So they are their own admitting authority. They have their own admission numbers. They have to go through a full consultation to set their admission numbers. We would be a consultee to that process. In terms of your point, it's really interesting because the code changed in 2021. So where an academy or indeed ourselves said that we had a school that was full, that was it. The line is drawn, and it's for health and safety reasons, it's for budget reasons, various reasons. However, in 2021, the code changed, and what it's given the position of is, would it cause prejudice to take any more children to existing children if any one school chose to go over their admission number? So that's the bit that we negotiate now. So yes, they have an admission number. However, if they feel they could go over that admission number, and it's for examples of families moving into the local community, we will be the parents' advocate in that, in trying to secure them a local school place.
I know it's a really emotional situation because a lot of families are forced to move, or marriages break down, families break apart, and they end up moving to a different part of the county. But our statutory duty is to supply enough secondary school places or primary school places for the children that we know are coming in, and we do that from birth. So we get the census records from birth, so we know what the likely numbers are going to be every year. So we plan for years ahead before they even get to secondary school, so we know roughly what our numbers are going to be. But it's really difficult if families move into areas where all the schools are up to capacity for their advertised admission numbers. We can't tell them to overfill because all the secondary schools are now academies specifically. So it's really difficult if families don't do some research beforehand and just move to an area, then found out all the schools are full, and we say to them there isn't a school place, you've got to go 20 miles away. It's a really difficult thing for us to have to do, but we have very little control over the academies and how many numbers. The only place we can force them to overfill is for children in care. Everyone else just has to go on the waiting list or choose another school. And that's a really difficult sell for parents. So we know it's a really emotive. We do all we can to make sure that families are aware of that. But it's not something that we have much more control over. So it's really difficult to explain. It's a very difficult jigsaw puzzle that we're trying to fit together with admission numbers and the areas that people want to go to school. But academies set their own admission numbers, and it's down to budgets for them really as well. So I understand the difficulty, and our mailboxes are always full of these kind of emails. I've moved here, I can't get a school place. But there are specific reasons. It's not as though we don't want to help these children because we want everyone in school. But we just have to work with the system that we've got.
Just before I move to Mrs. Seaton, and I haven't forgotten her at all, and I will come to you, but following on from that, if a family somewhere in the county have moved into an area and they've been offered a secondary schooling place 20, 30 miles away, we are a big county, and that doesn't help either, because distances it's not like living in a small county. If that leaves a child out of school, as it were, do we have any way to help that child carry on with some form of education, even if it's at home? If they've applied to schools and they're full, is it the school that they have been nominated to that they have to apply to have home working schooling, or what do they do? Because if their child's not in school, some people, they're breaking the law. So I just need And also, would there be penalties on the parents if they physically just can't get the child in time, an hour and a half, 2 hours journey away?
I think probably the officers will be able to explain this much better than I can, but our statutory role is to offer a school place. If we've offered that and the parents choose not to send their child to school, then they are in breach of not supplying. But we wouldn't just turn around and fine them, we would work with them. But there is the offer of transport, they can go on a waiting list for another academy. The problem is if it happens straight after we've allocated the start of term, because there's churn all years, pupils leave, and there's that churn all year. So there are places that become available. So it might be 6 months that they're travelling, and then they can get into a school near where they live. So it's that churn of pupils, but our statutory duty is to offer them a school place. If they decide not to take that up, that's the parents and the child's decision.
Mrs. Seaton.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor did mention parents do the research. So is there, hypothetically, if I was, I had the choice of where to live in Leicestershire if I was coming here, is there somewhere I can go to find out the schools that have got vacancies beforehand, so that I can then, I won't move to Loughborough because there's no vacancies there, I'll move to Thurmaston, say, is there somewhere I can go? Thank you.
You can come to us. So it's either our call handling service here at the County Council. They've got access to all our spreadsheets of school availability. So parents can be advised about where the next nearest school is with space if the local one is full. They're also advised about the right of appeal, so they can appeal for their local school. And if their set of circumstances outweigh the pressures of a full school, the panel will find in favour of the parent. It's a legally binding decision on the school, so the school can't refuse to take. There's waiting list options for phased rounds. So there are ways of managing to try to secure a local school if you can't secure one straight away. There's also the option in terms of what's been already picked up about home working. You'd have to electively home educate to actually go down that route. We don't supply any work or any education in that respect, but the parent would have to choose it. Our position is always to apply and secure a school place.
Yes, Mr. C.
And could I ask the relationship in this admissions policy with the city? Because we are a donut, and what is the relationship between us and the city?
So we have a very positive relationship with the city admissions. The issue, I would say, is one of we have far more popular schools than in some parts of the city, and we have schools that are on the border of the city-county, and that attracts parents to county schools. And if they secure one of their children in that school, they will then pull in all the younger ones, because often what you will find in a lot of academy criteria is that the highest other than looked after children will be siblings. So if you're a county family potentially with the oldest child looking to secure a school place, or you're an only child in that family, that then disadvantages you over a city parent who's already got a child in that school. We are prohibited from the Greenwich Agreement, which prohibits us from discriminating or prejudicing an application from outside the catchment, includes from another authority. So we have to deal with it on an equal basis to a county child.
Thank you. Did anybody else want to come back on anything at this stage? It's just very difficult, very emotive, and because the parents feel struggling, but it is the case, I think, as point out, as much pre-planning as possible. I know very occasionally, there may be an emergency move-in, but yes, it is, but very difficult. Thank you very much. We now move on to the quarterly report, performance report, which is on page 49 to 56. And Sharon, you're taking us through this? Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. The report that's before you outlines that the purpose of the report is to present to the committee an update on the Children and Family Services performance for the period July to September 23. And that performance is reported in accordance with the Council's corporate performance management arrangements. Paragraph 5 of the report outlines for the committee for those measures that have a national benchmark, which quartile our performance places Leicestershire in. It's worth noting for the committee, as I believe we updated you last time, we have been moving to new recording systems across the department. So both Mosaic, Capita and our youth justice recording systems have been updated, and we're in the process of re-establishing all the Tableau reports that come from those systems to reassure that although that has provided some challenges with the corporate reporting, managers have maintained trackers to make sure that we have oversight of our performance during the period. Paragraph 7 down to 15 reports on the children's social care performance. It talks about where we were placed in Q2, at the end of Q2, as opposed to where we were in the previous quarter. We continue to focus on our work around children becoming subject to a child protection plan for a second or subsequent time. Although that percentage in numbers went up slightly in the last quarter, through auditing and oversight, we know that we actually have a very small number of children that go on to a second child protection plan in a relatively short period. So most of those cases, although we'd want to work to prevent a child having a second or subsequent period, we know these are not children that are coming off plans very quickly and going back onto a plan. It is usually over a 2-year period since the last period of planning, and it's usually for a set of circumstances that are very different to the first time that they were on a plan. But that remains a real focus of work for us. Our percentage of re-referrals stay steady around the 23% mark. Our ambition is for that number to be 22%. So we're only very slightly over where we would want to place ourselves against outstanding authorities. We are performing well around the percentage of assessments completed within 45 working days, and very well in respect of children being on a child protection plan for 2 years or more, because that would suggest that there has been no movement at all or reduction mitigating the risk to that child. And our performance for care leavers around suitable accommodation, in employment and training and in contact remain very positive, and we perform well in all those areas. Percentage of children in care with a dental check is slowly but is increasing, and in relation to health assessments, we've been working very closely with colleagues in health who have been re-staffing and building their staff group to complete those assessments in a timely way for our children in care. So we expect to start to see a big improvement in that area of health assessments. In relation to children and families, so our targeted early help services, as the report outlines in paragraph 16, because of the changes to Capita and Synergy, we're not able to report the exact figures for this quarter, and that remains the same for our youth justice statistics, but performance for both of those areas from trackers within the service are reported into the departmental performance reporting mechanisms, and in relation to youth justice to the Youth and Justice Management Board. So if I now pass over to Alison, she'll take you through the early years and education performance.
Thank you, Sharon. So every child having to get the best start in life, the early years, the funded education, funded early education entitlement data for the autumn term will be available in 2024. So we've reported on some of the data that's held in that paragraph previously. If I move on to the school section, so every child to have access to good quality education to ensure they achieve their maximum potential. In paragraph 20, the percentage of primary schools rated good or outstanding was 90.2%. That's 203 out of the 225 inspected schools at the end of Q2. This does represent a decline of 1.4% on the previous quarter. The figure is within the third quartile of local authorities and is equal to the England average of 90.2%, which is at its highest level in 6 years. Moving on to paragraph 21, the percentage of secondary schools rated good or outstanding was 73.3%. That's 33 out of the 45 inspected at the end of the Q2. There's no change from Q1 and continues to be the lowest proportion of schools reported for this measure since 2015. If I move you through to paragraph 22, the percentage of pupils educated in good or outstanding schools was 84.1 at the end of Q2. That's approximately 84.2 out of the 101 out of the pupils, and this is a 1.2% lower than the first quartile at 85.3% and is the lowest performance in 3 years. Moving on to paragraphs 23 down to 25, the Department for Education has begun to release the assessment outcomes for the primary and secondary schools in 23. The provision of the provisional data 23 performance for Leicestershire is above the performance of 2017, but still 5.3% lower than the performance achieved in 2019. Nationally, the provisional 2023 performance is lower than in 2017 and 5.5% below the achieved in 2019. In paragraph 26, the number of elective home educations was at 999 at the end of Q2, and this is an increase of 145 students, 16.9% compared to Q2 in the 22-23 comparative period where it was 854 students. Paragraph 28, the NEET data is not currently available, and that concludes the performance report for the education and early years areas. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mrs. Taylor, did you want to come back?
No, thank you, Chair.
Any questions, any points anybody got? No, I was just interested in paragraph 22, when the percentage of pupils is at its lowest quite a long time. Do we know why? Is it a difference in, is it the hangover from pandemic, from school closures? It's just quite, it's, anyway, I'd ask for it.
Yeah, if I can just comment back on that. Some of those inspections were slightly delayed through the period of the pandemic. And then some of those inspections as well, where we've had our outstanding schools had not had an inspection for quite some time. And then there's been a change in the inspection grading there. So we do monitor that through the education effectiveness team, where we see that fluctuation in grades as well.
Thank you very much. No one else, anything else? Mr. Hunt.
Just to make a comment, really, that the reds and the greens don't tend to change an awful lot from quarter to quarter, and I guess to a certain extent these are things that we don't have the power to. Certainly, the red ones, we don't have the power to affect much change. Where we're talking, for example, about schools which are good or outstanding, it's not really within our gift. So it's just an observation. I thought that the little paragraph about early years education was quite important, because it matters a lot, and so on. I was surprised that usually at Scrutiny Committee people point out percentages which are 101.2%. So I'll do it for everybody who isn't here. But that's really important, and hopefully all the parents are aware of the opportunities and can afford them, which is another possibility. So,
do you want to come back on the 101.2% on there? Yes, and again, it always looks very curious when that comes through, but that is to represent the fact that we do know how many young people, children would be available to take up the offer in our free education entitlement funded opportunities, but where we do get oversubscribed on that, that's where the 1.2% does come into that, onto that.
Thank you. Thank you. And the elected home educated children is 999. Have we got a way to separate the two, whether it's for health reasons or for other reasons? Do we separate that at all? Thank you.
Thank you. Those children are typically classified as electively home educated because the families have made the choice to do that. In terms of the monitoring of that elective home education, we do look at that data to look at the reasons why this is happening. But if it was actually on medical reasons, then that would be children with medical needs. So that would be captured elsewhere, that, you know, we'd pick that data up on that.
But they form part of the 999, or are they separate?
No, elective home education is a distinct category from children with medical needs.
Lovely, thank you. Okay, because it is quite a worrying statistic, isn't it, that it is going up, and a lot of those will come back to education if they've been educated at home, probably in their primary schools, and then come back in secondary school. It's going to cause such a lot of issue for the student not to have been schooled in a school and brought up to it. So it's not going to be an easy job for a secondary school to actually then take on those pupils, is it? So.
If I could just come back in on that, parents make choices for a whole range of reasons, because it may be they've made an elective choice to electively home educate and then come back in, and in some circumstances the parents will make that phase back in as part of their planning to come back into education. In other opportunities, schools will be seeking to phase that child in. In some circumstances it is more challenging, where parents have made the decision, reflect on that quite quickly, and then want to go back into there. So that again is something that is a little bit more tricky to manage through, and isn't always easy for the child to be moving quickly in and out of that sort of system.
Thank you very much. Any more comments on that topic? No, well then we'll move on to item 11, which is the role of the local authority regarding multi-academy trust. This is on page 57 to 70. And Alison, are you leading us into this one? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. So the purpose of this report is to provide the committee with an overview of the legislative role of the local authority in education, specifically with academies. And the report sets out how these duties are discharged by the Children and Family Service Department. I would also like to add, while it's not overtly stated in here, the report doesn't overtly state the relationship we have with the diocese, and in particular Church of England diocese, but that is punctuated throughout some of the narrative in here, but not overtly amplified. But as I walk through the report, I will pick out where that is particularly relevant. So the background here that you can see in paragraphs 4 through to 5 is the statutory duties of the local authority. That's the school standards of improvement, safeguarding, pupil planning, school admissions, home to school transport, school attendance, school funding, and special educational needs provision. In through paragraphs 5 through to most of the rest of the documents on here, the education legislation is detailed in here. So if I refer to paragraph 9, the key points within the 2006 Education Act identify the role of the local authority as the champion of needs of children and young people and their families in the planning, the commissioning and quality assurance of educational services. in challenging schools, and where appropriate, not appropriate to commission and support where necessary to intervene and manage the governance of schools where the local authority has concerns about academy performance, and it may raise these directly with the Department for Education. And this is one that may be relevant if it was a Church of England school, for example, that we would raise our worries and concerns with the diocese at that point. In paragraph 12, the schools causing concern, this is where special measures are required and taken in relation to the school if the school is failing to give its pupils an acceptable standard of education, and if the persons responsible for leading, managing or governing the school are not demonstrating the capacity to secure the necessary improvements in the school. In paragraph 13, the schools causing concern is a crucial statutory document for local authorities holding schools to account. The document defines the criteria for schools that are not making necessary improvements and the school's overall effectiveness on its most recent Ofsted inspection under Section 5 of the Education Act 2005. And where requires improvement, the school's overall effectiveness was below good at the inspection on sections 5 immediately prior or such to inspection. If I move through to paragraph 18, the responsibilities for challenging underperformance in academies sits with the regional schools director, but equally we would have conversations with the diocese, including Church of England's diocese or the Catholic diocese, if that was one of their nominated schools as well. In paragraphs 19 to 20, the role and responsibility of the regional schools director are noted there, and in paragraphs 21 to 22, the roles and responsibility of Ofsted in relation to education are detailed. In paragraphs 23 through to 26, the safeguarding responsibilities for the local authority are highlighted in relation to academies. So local authorities have the overarching responsibility for safeguarding and promoting the welfare of children and young people in their area, regardless of the type of educational setting. Where local authorities has concerns about an academy or a free school and safeguarding arrangements and procedures, as well as resulting from investigations about individual children or otherwise, these concerns would be raised with the Department for Education and the funding body responsible for ensuring that the Academies Trust comply with their funding agreements. And again, if that was a diocese school, then we would be consulting and communicating with the diocese as well. When safeguarding concerns are identified as part of an Ofsted inspection process, Ofsted will notify the local authority, and it's the role of Ofsted to monitor the process of the improvements to safeguarding arrangements throughout the monitoring visit. When an academy is judged inadequate for leadership and management solely due to safeguarding, but judged good or outstanding for other areas, Ofsted will carry out early monitoring visits within the 3 months of the publication and will communicate with the local authority in respect of this. If we move on to paragraphs 28 onwards, the local authorities' work with academies is mainly taken place through the education effectiveness team. You can see in Appendix D the details of the education effectiveness team also includes governor development services, the anti-bullying team, education effectiveness partners, safeguarders and safeguarding in education, and all teams have a responsibility for delivering statutory requirements in the as identified in the paper. The education effectiveness team work across a range of departments within the local authority to ensure service users are provided with an efficient service. The education effectiveness team are in effect the single point of contact to all schools, including academies, to make sure that they do have the appropriate links back into the local authority. There are currently 286 schools in Leicestershire. 123 of these are part of the multi-academy trusts operating across Leicestershire, and that is detailed in one of the appendices as well. In conclusion, the local authority has statutory functions with multi-academy trusts as outlined in the paper, and without the appropriate contacts with the education effectiveness team, this would increase demand across other service areas and in particular within the children and family services. So the education effectiveness team forms that single point of contact and triage back in and out to schools and academies. Happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Taylor, did you want to come back at this moment?
No, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. Hunt.
Thank you, Chair. I thought it was a good and thorough description of where we were vis-a-vis the academies. I think nearly all of which the secondary schools are now academies, and I think this is one of the disasters that we've had to suffer, and it's no surprise that we're getting another report about how to deal with academies and maintained schools on the other side. But not that they're both not maintained, but there's an extra complication that there was liberalisation of catchment areas, which has caused a lot of disruption. The government didn't just take our schools away when they introduced academies. By the way, it was introduced with the assistance of Dominic Cummings, who was then working for the Secretary of State for Education. But they also took away the land that the county owned and gave it to these academies, some of which, you know, very good, some of which not, but there's no particular evidence that a step change has been made in the education of children in the county. In particular, I mean, Leicestershire had a very proud record as a local education authority, but that ability has been stripped away from us. So no doubt there'll be more reports like this explaining perhaps how transport isn't working or how catchments aren't working or whatever, but we're having to deal with it. And as Mr. Barra pointed out earlier on, we don't have any control over the admissions once the admissions dates are closed. So it just fills me with sadness, really. It's actually a little bit like Brexit, that a decision was made and we're trying to unravel it bit by bit, and that will go on for another decade, I should think. Sorry about that, but I feel strongly about this. Thank you.
Yes, we appreciate your thoughts, Mr. Hunt, but we are where we are, and it's been in place now for some time with the academies, and to dismantle all this now is not an easy job. But that's not what we're here to discuss. We're here to discuss the relationship. Has anybody else got any points they'd like to make? I'm just wondering, if I may, through you, through Jane, whether as the out of this report is appreciated, and the diocese has a lot of maintained schools, and they work closely with it. I personally, when I first came here, did not understand the relationship between the diocese and the council, and why it was just the diocese. So I'm wondering whether, and it's up to the committee, of course, is whether in a future meeting a brief paper could be put together explaining in a bit more detail how the relationship came about and why and what. But if that is something that could be thought about, I'd like to know whether the lead member and whether Jane thinks that would be an idea. I think for all councillors, because I'm sure not just the ones that sit on this committee, but I think for all councillors, trying to understand, particularly when they're dealing with their divisions, the difference in the schools. So I'd like to.
Yes, Chair, we'd be happy to do that, and certainly work with the diocese on putting together that report. But yeah, more than happy to bring a report back to this committee on the relationship with the LA and the diocese and the schools for which they have responsibility. Absolutely.
Agree with that as well. This is
slightly distracted by the tea and coffee arriving. Yeah, no, we're very happy to do that. I think it's really good to have an understanding. And just to counter Max's argument, I don't know what data he's referring to, but I think we can probably demonstrate some of the positives of academisation, because the academies of variety that academies can offer to pupils that we would never be able to do that as a local authority. So there might be some bad points that he's picked out, but he just failed to mention that there are some really good points about academisation and the ability of our children to be educated in totally different surroundings with total different experiences and life experiences, and that economy of scale. So there are many benefits as well. So I think we should have both sides of the argument put here today. Thank you.
I quite agree. Thank you very much. we'll move on to item 12, which is the Leicestershire Fostering Agency Statutory Report, pages 71 to 116. Sharon, are you taking us through this? Oh, Jane.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I won't go through the report in detail with you, but this report is presenting to you the Leicestershire Fostering Agency Statutory Report. I'm joined this afternoon by my colleague Joss, who is the Service Manager for Fostering. The report that you've got in front of you and the more detailed report you've got in front of you gives an overview of all of the activity of that service and some of the key achievements over the last year. So I'll pause there, Chair, for any questions, but Joss will be happy to pick up. Thank you.
Welcome, Joss. Is there anything you'd like to add at this moment before I open it up?
No.
Right. Is there any comments, questions from people? An excellent report. I think we do very well, and there's always more people that we would like to encourage to be foster parents, but we do as well as we can. Mrs. Taylor.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to sing the praises of the fostering service that we have here. It's second to none, I think, and we have a lot of carers that come over from independent fostering associations that come to us because of the support they get here, the training, the peer support they get, and all those other things that the children that they're caring for get as well by being a foster carer for us. So just reiterate, we're always looking for more foster carers. That's where we want our children to be if they can't live with their birth family. We want them to be with foster carers in a home setting. So yeah, just really if people are considering it, please put themselves forward. I know Denise with the recruitment, she's a fantastic champion for children and for carers, and if you're interested, come to one of the foster care evenings. She's fantastic and happy to answer any questions. So if anyone's got the slightest bit of interest, even if they're not thinking about it right at this moment, to please come to one of our fostering events. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Taylor. I think also, and I think there's someone that wants to make a comment, it's not only the little children, it's the older children. And I know in certain areas, even older people almost at my age to sort of take on like a grandmotherly, grandfatherly, grandparent role. I do it unofficially with the two boys that live next door to me who've lost their father, and I'm known as the third grandmother. So I have them knocking on the door at 7 in the morning. Can you take me to school work? I've had a row with mum or something, and that is a form of fostering. And I think there is a large age group, and particularly with the pandemic and things and the life works. But anyway, I think Mr. Frisbee, did you want to?
I just wanted to say what a totally relatable and accessible document that the report is. I think it's vibrant and it's very, very bright. And again, it's a highly sensitive issue. And I'm pleased that it's not sort of drenched in maudlin sorrow. It's bright, and it's incredibly accessible, and it certainly prompted me to consider my position with this. So thank you. Yeah. Actually, I say we are, not just me. So
Can I just ask, does this, I know everybody has access to these papers, but does the annual report go out to all councillors? And if not, why not?
should really.
Because I think it makes just the annual report, because I think some councillors don't really appreciate. I mean, I'm a great believer that some of these reports that come to scrutiny meetings or anything should be circulated to all councillors, but it's whatever the officers feel and the lead member feels. But it is, you know, it's a well written, taken a long time, put together. And at the moment, except for the people that joined us online or may pick up on it, there's just a few of us here looking at it. So
it is on the website. I think it's included in some of the actual council's annual report. There'll be a snippet in there. But yeah, I'm very happy if Damien wants to send this and the adoption report out to all members for information. I think that would be good for them.
I think if you could, that Alison, Jane and Sharon, because, and yourself, is that I know these things are all on the website, but like everybody, do I think on a wet Friday morning, oh, I must check LCC website to see if there is a report on fostering? I'm afraid I don't. So if I could leave that with you. Thank you. Right.
Sorry, Chair. Can I just add one?
Yes,
Sorry.
that'll.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a document that's worthy of far greater distribution, and I know it's a culture that we're trying to distance ourselves from. But if there's any hard copies for some of the communities, I don't know whether there is. Okay, it's a shame. Even one for our centre would be really.
We could maybe get copies put in each of the group rooms, maybe.
It's just
like have a hard copy on each of the group rooms. We could do that. We could stretch to 3 copies.
Okay, it's just we operate from a multi-community centre, and it would be just nice to have a positive document like that. And it might prompt people to consider. Mrs. Taylor's just advised me to print it off. That's fine.
And we can.
In austerity, Mrs. Taylor, I'll do that.
We can provide you with all our recruitment activity and all information about carers, our independent visitor scheme, supported lodging, so that can go into those areas as well to help with our recruitment as well as publicise what we do.
Additionally, it'd be nice to invite you to our centre as well, perhaps to give a talk to interested people. Sorry, I'm not trying to add to your workload, but it's a great area of work. So, thank you.
Mr. Hunt.
Yes, it's always nice to talk about good things going on in the county, and I'd agree with everything that Mr. Frisbee said. I actually made it a major feature in my last newsletter in Loughborough North West. So far, nobody's come forward to foster any of my children. So, I was just a little question here. It's not a criticism at all. When we ask questions, it's just to sort of show that we've read it, really. But I noticed that all the members of the recruitment team are women. It's not a bad thing, obviously. But is there a sort of marketing direction towards women in the home to be foster parents? And is there an opportunity to approach male members of society? Is that something that we're not looking at, or something we're avoiding? Or
yeah, no, it's something we actively do around recruitment, and we do have male carers who are part of a partnership, whether that's a same-sex couple, single carers, or the man and wife who are offering to foster. So we have a variety of people who bring different skills and expertise that match the different experiences and needs of our children that we look after. So we welcome all applications.
Okay, thank you very much. Brent, can.
Yeah, well done, Brent. I've got to make an admission here, and I'm going to say the word link. I've got no idea how to get a link or do a link or transfer a link. I've just done an article in my local paper, and I did pick it off your site on fostering, and it would have been good. The copy date's gone now, and it's all gone off to the printer. If I could have had a link of this on that, how would I do that? Or is there a link?
Yeah, I think we could do that. What we could do is we could circulate the report to all members, but also include in maybe the email that goes out a link to the document, because like we said, it's on our website. And then the materials that Joss has said as well are the kind of recruitment and publicity materials as well. So we could share some of that information to members as well as Mr. Frisbee set out to other areas.
Okay, thank you. Because there could have been a Friday, wet Friday, when somebody picks up the Thermiston Times and reads the article, and they'd like a link to go onto it. So
Might even stretch to a QR code. How about that?
Oh no, that's just one step too far for me.
Step too far for me. No, I think anything that we can get out to the 56 councillors, you don't know where that's bubbling out further. And it makes people just have a bit of a think, oh, maybe I could do something like that. But so thank you very much. Very positive discussion, I think, on that. Thank you. Right, we're now moving on to item 13, which is the statutory report on the Leicestershire Adoption Agency, which is pages 117 to 166. So, Jane, are you taking us through this, or Sharon? Jane, thank you.
Yes, again, thank you, Chair. And again, really happy to present to you the Leicestershire Adoption Agency statutory report, which again is another really positive report about the work undertaken by the adoption service to support children across Leicestershire. So the report that we are presenting to you today gives an overview of the family adoption links that we are part of. So that's the regional adoption agency that we are part of, as well as an overview of the work of the service and also some of the key achievements over the year. So again, Chair, really pleased to present this really positive report to members for consideration today. Thank you.
Mrs. Taylor, did you want to come back on this time?
Just everything I said about fostering, but swap the word for adoption.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think so. I think that goes with it. Anybody else? Mr.
I just concur with Mrs. Taylor. Exactly the same. Ditto the above.
Right, so someone's going to be busy making sure we all know everything. Any other comments? No? Right, thank you. And our final report today is the annual report for the virtual school. Oh, the one before. I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. Item 14, which is the annual report of the Independent Reviewing Officer, which is on pages 167 to 210. And I've got Mrs. Moore.
Thank you, Chair. And again, this is the last of our statutory reports that we're presenting to you today. So this is the presentation of the Independent Reviewing Officer's report for the work that we do to support children in care. And I'm joined by my colleague, Rebecca Peters, who is the Safeguarding and Improvement Manager. The report, in essence, gives an overview of the role of the service and the work that they do. And again, I think presents a really wonderful picture of some of the work that that service is doing to support children for whom we have in our care across the county. So I'll leave it there. Thank you, Chair, for any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or points? Mr. Hunt?
A very satisfactory report. I think it's obviously a strong report because it covers a lot of the serious issues we face. And I appreciated the graphs actually on page 186. I think that's the right page. I can't quite read it on this. But I noticed in particular that the number of looked after children has now plateaued, as I think Sharon predicted last April. And that's a good thing. And I've tracked this over a few years and it was getting quite worrying. The question I just wanted to ask, if it's appropriate to ask it now, is just in oversight, are the homes for looked after children also stable in the sense, have we got a good selection of homes for looked after children, and is that a moving list, or is it fairly stable, I should say? And how are we coping with that extra load of children in the past 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, if I try and answer that question, the number of homes and having the right homes, whether they're foster homes, homes with extended family, or residential homes for our children in care, is a challenge for every authority, getting the right mix of homes available to match the needs of, and for some young people, their lived experiences are so complex that getting the right homes for them and the right carers is a challenge. What I can say is that the work that we do around the recruitment and retention of our foster carers, and the work that we've shared with the committee before around our residential redesign and work with Barnardo's to establish our own homes in Leicestershire, will get us, and is getting us into a better position. But it does remain a challenge for us.
Right.
Thank you. Mr. Frisbee, your microphone is on. Did you want to speak to it? No, not on that. Anybody else have any comments? No. This is it, Mrs. Taylor.
Yeah, I think this is a really important work that the IROs do, and it's just that safety check for us to make sure that our children are looked after and have someone to go to if they have any concerns or anything. So it's a really important part of our service and also a statutory service, but the IROs do a fantastic job for us. So yeah, really grateful that you're welcoming the report and the good work that they do.
You want to offer? No, you're fine. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming. We now.
Sorry, Chair, just add that the plan on a page at the end of the report is the work to put the detail that's in the report into a format that can be shared with our children and young people. So that's something that we did last year for the first time, and would just draw your attention to that.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's great that. Yes, the IRO LAT Focus Team Annual Report and 1 page. Brilliant. Thank you very much. We now move on to our final report, which is the annual report of the virtual school, and this is on pages 211 to 248. Do we have, is it Jane and is it Donna? Is she with us? Right. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Chair. And unfortunately, Donna is unwell, so has not been able to come today, but she is the head of the virtual school for Leicestershire, so it would have been her first meeting today to present to you all, so apologies for that. So this report is presenting to you the annual virtual annual report of the virtual school head. We have changed the timing of this report, so your members will be aware that ordinarily we do bring this report to you in June, but actually that was with quite late data. So it is a report of the 22-23. We've brought it forward, but it does mean that it's not got the official data in it. So we will bring you an updated report on that data when it comes through. The role of the virtual school is to promote the educational achievement. We do have a statutory duty as a local authority, and the virtual school is charged with promoting the educational achievement of our children who we look after wherever they live, and also the education of those children who are previously looked after as well. The virtual school is a service with a team of highly skilled professional individuals who are hugely passionate about the work that they do. Both in supporting children who are in our care and previously looked after, but also supporting schools, carers and young people as well, to make sure that we help them to achieve the best in their education. The virtual school also has a non-statutory, so a different type of duty around the strategic leadership in terms of a role to support children who have a social worker. That role previously did sit with the inclusion service, but has now moved over and will be part of the role of the virtual school head. So we've merged those two duties for the local authority together. So in future reports, we'll come to you with an overview of the work that's been taken on there. So the report that we've got, that you've got in front of you, is a really wonderful overview of the breadth and depth of the work that's being led through the virtual school. We've paid specific attention this year to adapting the report to be more visual so that it's more child focused, and it enables then our children and young people to access the report as well as professionals. We've looked at how we present the data to make sure that it enables us to and support us with analysis and scrutiny so that we can drive our work and target our support. The data in the report covers the areas for which we have a statutory duty, so that's up to the age of 16 or school-aged cohort, but in the appendix we have included a wider analysis for our early years children and also post-16 children. Our personal education plans continue to be held at a very high standard, and our completion rates for those plans are high. The report also sets out how we use our Pupil Premium Plus allocations and gives you an overview of the work that we've done to support children using that money and the impact it's had for young people. In terms of the attainment data, as I said, it's not the official data. We don't get that until around about April time, but we have been able to draw some generic conclusions again, which we've included in the report. And you'll see from the report that there is still a significant gap in attainment for children and young people in our care, as well as what we're seeing is a steady increase in temporary exclusions for persistent, what's perceived as disruptive behaviour by our young people in schools as well. And we've also got some numbers of challenges we have with special educational needs, which are being experienced across the wider system, but obviously are impacting our children in care as well. The numbers of young people who are unaccompanied asylum-seeking children is beginning to increase, and the service continues to provide support to those children. Particular challenges around the availability of college places for children, and we're working at the moment to look at alternative ways of delivering that. And then finally, over the last year, the virtual school has delivered a really rich, wide curriculum for our children. And included in that is us working towards our Arts Mark Award, which ensures arts and the wider curriculum is really developed. And we've also included the impact report for the Care to Dance programme, which highlights the voice of those young people who've been part of that. And you can see that there's been some really deep impact on their wellbeing there as well. And then finally, voice work is included throughout it, and we're really committed to making sure that not only do we share the voice of our children, but we hear the voice of our children as well. And the plans for this next academic year continue to make sure that we're advocating and striving for raising achievers and attainment for the young people in our care, as well as supporting or working with those who can really support and offer different experiences for our young people as well. So thank you, Chair.
Excuse me, thank you very much, and please pass on our best wishes to Donna, because we're looking forward to meeting her, and hopefully we'll see her at a future meeting. And Mrs. Taylor, did you want to come back?
No, just to praise the work of the virtual school. They do a fantastic job with a very small budget and a very small team, but they are really important to our children in care and their education, and they do great work for them.
Anybody else have any comments to make? No? Again, it's lovely, isn't it, to end up with all these amazing reports of achievements at the end of this meeting. And I think that it's the last meeting for 2023, so thankful for finishing on a positive note, and that may well it continue. But no, our next meeting is on the 23rd of January, again at 2 o'clock. And as I stated at the start of the meeting, I have no urgent items, but thank you all very much for attending. And I know it's early because we're still only in the middle of November, but have a very good end of year and Christmas and everything, and see you all in January. But thank you very much indeed.